Hello, and welcome to your intro into the wonderful world of El Salvador. In episode 1 of our 30-part series, we will be discussing El Salvador's struggle to become a self-sufficient and stable country following their independence from Spain in 1821. So let's draw a quick map of Central America over here, and this little guy in blue is our baby El Salvador. Now, El Salvador was not the standalone nation we've come to know and love over the years immediately after its independence from Spain. You see, Mexico was looking to incorporate El Salvador along with these 4 other countries into its empire as the Central American Union. Elites mostly in Guatemala, but also some in El Salvador, voted in favor of this union, and this made them very happy. But many of the citizens in El Salvador weren't too hot on the idea. Tensions between Guatemala and El Salvador rise very quickly in this union due to this unhappiness, and eventually it leads to Guatemala invading El Salvador. El Salvador, however, being the beasts that they are, pushed back Guatemala out of the country. This victory makes it El Salvador 1, Guatemala 0. Unfortunately for El Salvador, however, the Mexican Emperor Iturbide did not take too kindly to this fighting within his union, and siding with Guatemala, invades El Salvador. El Salvador is occupied by Mexico, making our new scoreboard Guatemala 0, El Salvador 1, Mexico 2. This Mexican control of El Salvador would not last, however, as the Mexican presence in Central America would vanish once its emperor had fallen. Without Mexico, the Central American countries led primarily by Guatemala created the United Province of Central America, officially named the Federal Republic of Central America. This was not a very unified republic, as tensions and rivalries led to civil wars between the regions. These civil wars plagued the state as death tolls rose. Costa Rica lost 144 people, Guatemala 2,291, and poor El Salvador suffered 2,546 casualties, the most of all the states.
Now, this war led to the collapse of the Federal Republic of Central America. At this point, El Salvador seceded and officially became its own independent country, which was good. But things didn't start off well, which made people pretty sad. They continued to fight, and I mean a lot. They fought Nicaragua once, Honduras 4 times, and Guatemala 5. Now, in order to get their country up and running, the policymakers of El Salvador had a lot of work to do between agriculture, the economy, the military, education, and public works. It's important to remember that this was done with frequently and suddenly changing presidents. In a span of 30 years, El Salvador had 14 presidents. But the main priority for policymakers was military and police, highlighting the violent and aggressive conditions that the people of El Salvador lived in. El Salvador's economy, primarily based on indigo, began to shift towards coffee in the mid to late 1800s. As a whole, though, trade never really went well. These 2 factors, when combined, pretty much meant that El Salvador had less money to spend on public works, like this road here. Bye, road. El Salvadorian education was a thing that a lot of presidents tried to reform, but a lot of them really failed badly. Only 6,696 of 373,000 citizens of El Salvador were students. Very little public funds were used on education, a mere 5% compared to Costa Rica's 25%. So, in general, the first few decades of independence were really shaky for El Salvador. They were filled with political instability, violence, poor infrastructure, and poor education.